Good afternoon. It's Sunday. Um, haven't done one of these in a while. This is going to be a little repetitive, not having any real new info here. But the situation is, I've got my new laptop here. That's what you're looking at. Um, you can unfortunately see what I've been doing with my spare time since I've gotten it. I'm playing a little bit of some games. Uh, but I need my VM here to actually start doing some real work, recording some videos, etc. And also getting into things. Part of the thing, stuck doing my actual day job, um, which, while Postgres upgrades and stuff of that sort is fun, there's some things I want to play around with and share with all of you. So today, going to set up FreeBSD VM, walk through it. It may not be the most interesting thing in the world. It may have a little bit of commentary. It's going to be pretty straightforward, um, but this is the first step in order to use the laptop for things other than destroying the world in ICBM. So let's get started. I'm gonna be using VirtualBox just because I like it and it suits. So we got FreeBSD. This guy, 4 gigs. By the way, this is a Lenovo ThinkPad of some variety. It's like a T15. I really like it. The keyboard suits. It's got the nipple for pointing, um, which is fantastic for me. And right now, so if it's a little, I have a little awkward ergonomic situation. My desk is occupied with the work machine and monitors and such. So I'm off somewhere else. Don't have the greatest ergonomics at the moment, but we'll muddle through. So create our drive, 76 gigs. We're going to tweak some settings here at the outset. So I got a 4K display right now. So one of the things I want to do is bump up memory, but I also want to put the scale to 200% because I'd really like a 1080 VM, make some things easier. And we're going to do the VBox VGA for legacy reasons. Let's get rid of this IDE controller and add in a SATA controller just for fun. FreeBSD ISO. Let me cancel that. We'll put on our hard disk first. Got that. Use the host IO controller. Network will stick with NATed. And we got display. Let's give this guy 4 CPUs. I think that should do us. Let's boot it up. Now, why I'm choosing FreeBSD is I've been switching over a lot of stuff. As you know, the home server is Lumos. Switch to scale mode here to make this a little bit bigger. And I've really come to appreciate the BSDs more and more over time. Uh, Not that Linux is totally out of my life. Obviously, use it in a professional capacity, but there's a little bit less. Yeah, still got my Slackware machine sitting around. Um, may do a Slackware VM on this here as well. But now that Open Broadcast Studio (OBS) is available for FreeBSD, that was kind of one of the last things, was the screen recording that wasn't quite up to par. Now that's working great. The Linux stuff is really just keeping some CentOS and Ubuntu VMs around to do actual work. Um, but everything else is happening on Lumos or BSD these days for me. Let's go through and install. Default key map. Give it a very descriptive name. We're going to want the system source. And we want ZFS, of course. Yeah, we just have the one disk. Confirm. So I don't know where I'm going to end this. I mean, obviously the install is pretty quick, but I'd like to get uh, the ports tree down, and install X and get that running and the VirtualBox editions. I think that'll make for a good video. Um, this is being recorded in 4K at the moment, 4K display, and I want to be able to do the whole display here. Um, Leave a comment if it's of poor quality. I haven't done a 4K upload before. Um, like I say, everything should be going back to 1080. I think for this sort of thing, the 1920 by 1080 resolution actually works pretty well. Scaling doesn't become a factor in the same way, I think, as for 4K. This isn't fancy cinematography. I'm doing a screen share, so I think that'll be the better course of action. But do let me know. I certainly can do more 4K now that I have this display. The ThinkPad, by the way, has really turned out nicely. It's got kind of an older gen GPU in it, like a 1050 or something, which suits for my gaming needs. I'm not doing any of the latest and greatest games, but do like to play some. And speaking of games, two that I've just been spending a lot of time with recently have been ICBM multiplayer game. It is so much fun. Uh, you know, War games being one of my early inspirations into uh, computers, and a sounds wrong to say a love of nuclear weapons and such, but it sparked a couple lifelong interests. And then also Ultimate Admirals Dreadnoughts. You get to design your own ships and fight them. Fantastic stuff. Let me create a root password, and we'll just DHCP because we're natted here. And no IPv6. And we are going to be in the United States. Setting the time zone, yep. So we want to synchronize date and time boot time. And I do not need any system hardening. Yeah, I do want to add a user, admin user. Throw them in wheel so I can do some more admin-y type class activities. Sticking with the main shell, I have been using the TC shell more recently. I don't know. It's one of those things where what you get started in, and the first shell I used many, many years ago, oh goodness, it must be 30 years ago at this point, was the C shell. And so it always feels a little bit like home to me, how variables are set, etc., and how to navigate. And then I quickly moved to the TC shell. So sometimes I use it for nostalgia. It feels comfortable. I know it's the C shell class are looked down on uh, these days, but leave a comment if you'd be interested in seeing some videos on me talking about shells. Uh, may not be the most interesting thing, but I certainly enjoy the differences. So we are done with the install. Switch out of scale mode and remove the CD here. Back to scale mode. It is booting up just fine here. Get in as go in as root first. Let's get the ports tree down with a port snap fetch. So next up is throw Xorg on there. So we got windowing system and then the guest editions. There'll obviously be some other setup to do, installing some of the applications I need, etc. But this is just to get the base system up and running. Um, I've been kind of sans a real environment for some time since the old laptop gave up the ghost, and the new one here has been just used for some gaming activities at the moment. Be excited to get into some useful things. One of the ones upcoming is going to be uh, OpenVMS from VSI, the people who bought it from HP, on an alpha emulator. So we'll go through that. A little bit different. There's also, speaking of alpha emulation, someone has taken ES40, which I've covered a long time ago, um, taken that and done a lot of work. They've renamed it AXPBox. It is really making some good progress. There's actually people working on it, which is really impressive. And it seems like they're making some good headway. So that is some exciting developments there. And that will also run totally free um, for AXPBox. Um, but yeah, hopefully the OpenVMS 9, which has the x86-64 support, will come out and will be available for hobbyists. That's an interesting question because then anyone can run it. I mean, I think they should. I assume they will, uh, but that's a to be determined. That would be nice so that we could all enjoy our OpenVMS at a very high speed using, say, virtualization here. Some other ideas, things that are going to be coming up. Uh, the TME, the machine emulator, something I want to play around with, and that's for doing all sorts of different Sun machines. I think from Sun 2s, Sun 3s, Sun 4s. So you can do like a Spark Station 1, but you could also do like a Sun 3/80. It's a little emulator, uh, and maybe fun to do a little bit of some Spark or the Sun 68K series emulation. Uh, do some SunOS stuff. Um, look at all those Perl modules. Look at them go. What else? Yeah, a lot of hemming and hawing. We're just watching this go by here. Perl is still fantastic. It's really been a shame that its popularity has waned over the years. As a dynamic language, it works really well. I work on a team now. Python is kind of the default language for this team, and I see that happening across everything I've seen. Thankfully, R still has a foothold for some of the statistical and machine learning areas. I like R as well. Really don't like Python. Never have. Uh, it just really doesn't suit me to play around with it. Probably the white space delimiting or the white space layout. Yeah, I'm a fan of curly braces and semicolons, and it's hard to get your brain out of that. I mean, it's possible, right? So I do Verilog. That's a little different. There's no curly braces there. Works just fine. SQL, no curly braces. But it seems like they had the system figured out, right? Use curly braces, semicolons, languages look like that. I wonder if this is coming down to what one learned early. But then, of course, all cars have a steering wheel, right? You find something that works and use it all the time. But I know Python is incredibly popular. Uh, I find it kind of slow. Some of the same things that we do, at least I do professionally, things that are in Python can be done with significantly more performance in, say, Node.js or Perl. Um, but yet Python remains the first choice. So it's interesting. I wonder if also as the younger generation pick that up in school. Who knows? But if you have any insight into that, do let me know. See, more Perl modules going through. Um, yeah, once the ports extract here, we can put in Xorg, and then after Xorg guest editions, we should be able to fire this up. The other thing to ask you guys is, since I now have a laptop that's capable of playing some slightly more modern games, not the latest and greatest in high graphical detail, let me know if there's any interesting games to play. I do want to go back a few years and do I think they did a restart of the Wolfenstein series with something set in like the 60s. I do want to check that out now that I'm able to play that one. That looks good. I've always been a fan of that series, except for there was one they did where you had some portal to alternate dimension. That one fell a little flat for me, but I will hold up Return to Castle Wolfenstein. The one came out around 2000. Probably one of the greatest first-person shooters I've played, at least up there with things like Doom 2 uh, and Quake. But showing my age a little bit, the games from 20, 25 years ago are still on the top of my list. So it looks like we're starting to get close to the end of the ports being extracted. There are a lot of them. Um, and they're all pretty useful. It is a great system, although I will say package source, NetBSD is equivalent. I do use a lot more heavily. They have package source for Lumos, so that's kind of been adopted there uh, across you know SmartOS and OmniOS and Triblix all employ package source to varying degrees. Uh, I use it on Linux machines because it works there as well. And of course NetBSD. Don't have anything running NetBSD at the moment, but package source, the interface suits me a little bit better. Obviously, for building a port and building something from package source, it's the same thing, right? Make, install, make package, whatever. But for installing packages, package in works for me. So look, more Perl modules, a lot more. By the way, Perl Modulicious is fantastic. Um, putting up some REST services the other day, and it made it absolutely painless to do Modulicious Lite module name. Yeah. Took a whopping 10 minutes to go stand up some REST services. Um, Built-in server, but I was running it under Starman um, to see what kind of performance we could get out of it. But great stuff. Finally, ports are installed. Look at all those great ports directories. So now we're going to do Xorg. So we got a setup package. Was this package NG originally? Package of the new generation? Okay. A little bit of dead air there. I do apologize. We are getting all these various bits and pieces installed. Hopefully it'll be done shortly and we can wrap this up. Um, as I noted in the beginning here, not the most exciting thing, but this is the gateway to me actually putting some more stuff online. And so it's also a little bit of a lazy Sunday. So I had a few minutes to get this done. A lot of packages, a lot of fonts. It's something I appreciate about FreeBSD is, well, three things it's got going for it. It's got jails, more importantly, ZFS, fantastic. Um, cannot do without it. But the other thing I like is that they don't include X as part of the base install. Not something you can optionally remove, but it's an add-on, right? It's a package. Um, so it is just a nice choice to keep things a little lean, similar to, say, OmniOS. And I think for a server operating system, the non-inclusion of X as a default package and turning it into a more of an add-on would be is a great move. Okay, fantastic. We are done there. So now we just need the open source editions. Going to be a little bit of a version mismatch here, and I don't think that's going to be a problem. Okay. let's just put the RC config stuff in there. Start these two manually. And start X as our regular user. We get a scale mode here. And VirtualBox client works. So I think I'm going to let me just get this black background. I really wish they would have stuck with what they call the retro background, this kind of gray hatch mark look. I don't know, the black just doesn't suit. So we're up here with, we got the guest editions X running TWM here. I'm going to call it for now. Obviously, there's going to be some more setup. So leave a comment if you want to see any of the more setup, including maybe a different window manager or desktop environment, throwing some extra packages on there, and going from there. So thanks for, if you made it this far, for putting up with a little bit of a boring, slightly repetitive install, because we've done FreeBSD in the past, but this was more, I'm going to be doing it anyway, might as well record it. So thanks and happy Sunday.